hope you guys had a really great time off last weekend. I also had a really good time. I went on a vacation time from my full-time work and from the school as well, and I can say that I'm fully recharged. So now we'll almost week 5 and 6, and next week, I'm sorry, the not uh, coming Monday, following Monday will be the Indigenous Day, which is a holiday. So online class may not have the holiday off, but in-person class might have time off, which is great. But I'm going to move forward with the much more materials to give you guys knowledges, and I hope you guys are all prepared mentally. Anyway, today I'm going to give you guys the lecture of the materials, and you'll find the demonstration video of making phone call model and Photoshop retouching of those models as well. So let me give you some knowledges and background sources of the material first, and I'm going to give you guys the overall plan for the next few weeks. So after a few weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we're going to finish this first project and move to second project. Now, types of materials for our dimensional graphics for retail environment. None of our classmates are doing the educational organization or nonprofit institutional settings, so I would just say that we're doing all retail environment dimensional graphics for this first project. So when we are working on those 3D models, we may have to consider what types of materials are appropriate for my brand, the design. Commonly use the wood because it's very easy to source. You can buy anywhere, and it has very nature touch and feeling into it, and people nowadays have a really nice and comfortable feeling towards the wood materials. So my personal project, the honey farm display stand, was also made in wood. I didn't use actual wood panels, but I did it as a Photoshop effect. So you guys will see that from demonstration, how to cover the material texture onto the your 3D model. So in the wood, grains and figures are very different variations, and veneers are artificial wood material, and substrates are also could be differentiated depending on the uses of those wood, and bendability as well. Some wood panels are really hard and you can really bend, but some wood panels are kind of flexible and soft, and you can make it any form of the design and shapes. So that's why I made this wood as in a really bold box. And next, metals, and I'm not sure anyone actually used metal, but you can always do that by digitally. Metals, there are also so many kinds. Depending on the finished surface, it's divided by the matte finish, glossy finish, and lift and patina, and those metals could be also divided by the shapes, as just sheet or extruded tubes and wireframe. Some of you guys like to use the wireframe metal for like a farm stand kind of market types of the basket type of the display shelves, and display object. And laser cut, or it could be bendable or just cut out like laser cut out metal pieces, plastic forms, paperboard, and foam board. So I hope you guys use foam board for your model making mainly, because once you see my demonstration video of Photoshop, you notice that applying the texture and images onto your display fixture might be much easier and clear on top of the white foam board surface. You can also do easy access material like plastic or forms, styrofoams, but those are also hard to manage at home. And paperboard you can also do if you can find white color and then no color paper and the board. So there are different kinds of the materials in this, and then I'm going to show you the examples by those images. These are also wood materials, the corkboard or just MDF or reclaimed wood or just piece of the wood tom. And these are also cut by the laser at the shop and made a dimensional letter form. For example, Starbucks Roastery, which located near in a Chelsea Market area, they use the reclaimed wood to make the store feel like very cozy, and the coffee beans came from those countryside, and you can also almost smell like a coffee in this store setting. And Lush products displays on the Lush store, they also use the reclaimed wood boxes and make it almost feel like you're in a marketplace, in a farmer's market. So they try to touch the customer's feeling, as and then they're not only selling the product, they're also selling their brand identities and mood and feeling too. This is one of our TE 216 class students' work. The student used the MDF wooden panel and the CNC cut by the shop facility, and those letters done with the vinyl cut machine. You can also do silk screen method, but silk screen nowadays it's hard to find the vendor. I recommend use the vinyl cut letters. It's just very easy, and then you can always modify. You can peel it off easily too. This is another professional examples of using the plastic PVC ribbons. As you see, it almost look like a gift wrap ribbons in the department store window, and it's really phenomenal look. And by using just plastic and PVC ribbons, people won't feel it's actually plastic. And bendable metal, department store use, as you see these human face figures, the hairs almost look like a cord. That's also very easy to bend and curl, but it also requires certain facility or machine to make that look. And those metal cuts shapes are cut by the laser cutting machine. You can make any kind of shapes out of those, and this metal rabbit shape is also stained, almost look like a rusted. And these are also cut by the CNC cutter and laser cut. In the professional industry, we use the the laser cutter a lot. And the foam core, it's really easy to find, but also it's hard to carve all these shapes, mounting the shapes, because without a certain special facility that you have to wear the mask, and all the your rooms and your area might be so messy when you're carving out all these forms. So this also requires certain facility to do this kind of job, but it's really fun. You can make anything. It's almost like, sculpture work. And another form examples, I believe these came from the Bergdorf Goodman window. Many of you guys familiar with those window designed from Bergdorf Goodman department store in the Fifth Avenue. There are many, every season, every year, many tourists visit to see their window design, because they're very theatrical, and of course they relate it to the retail business, but their main purpose is drawing many footprint to their department store. But traditionally, this department store's window is very popular as some form of artistic shape. And one of our professor for the window design is holding this the big shape of the metal, and this is actually made out of just big styrofoam and covered with the metal leaf. The texture almost like a foil. Paper engineering is something that I want to recommend you guys use a lot, because it requires a lot of detail cutting, but once you're done with all this detail, the job, and it will look really great. And as you see, all these layers have individual shapes, and then with all combined shapes making one big motif, and it looks like a heart shape. And this is another advertisement from this Victorinox brand. As you see, it looks really amazing. You can do this at home. Last semester, we Studio 1 class had this cutting of the cube project. So some of students use this sort of paper engineering method for their cube project. And another example of paper engineering. This is one of the students' work, and this is also dimensional graphics project. And as you see, you don't have to put too much of materials or facilities or tools. It just required like X-Acto knife and papers, and with much of your talent. Vacuum form is also something we need a special facility or special machine that almost look like a Xerox machine, like a really gigantic version of Xerox machine. And you have really hot panner. The metal panner had the main model shape of the form should be copied, and you press down with the heavy lifting facility, and it almost like melted and then shaped that kind of styrofoam as this amazing different kind of shapes. Gate form is hybrid material. The outer two layers, top or bottom or left or right, the outer surface is made out of paper and sandwiched to the styrofoam, so that they don't look like it's it has really rough edges like a styrofoam texture, but then clean, smooth, and surface from the paper material, but it's also really easy to cut. Imagine that this thickness of the panel is made out of only paper. It's almost like a MDF panel. It's hard to cut, but the inside of this gator form is a styrofoam. It's really easy to cut, but you can't really cut with the blade or any cutter at home. It also requires some sort of the laser cutting to make that smooth cutting feeling. And foam core, something that we can use every day, but once you make that so many layers and putting a lot of effort, you can also make really bigger volume of a job like this. This is a window design of Valentino brand. This is just example of the POP, the dimensioner display unit from the retail store. You can make this the point of purchase display unit by using the foam core. The student referenced from this clear display unit already made. And another example of paper engineering or layered effect. You can make 3D object out of so many layers of the shapes. Nowadays, people use the 3D printer, so the engineering process of making these shapes are pretty similar. 3D printers, read the entire 3D shapes, and they start from the bottom or left and right, and they start making the form of entire complicated shapes. Graphics application, we use the shelving units for our project a lot. So as you see this, I don't think this is a student's work. This is professional designers' work. So Adidas logos cut out, but the negative side has the shelving unit. I think it's really clever. So without putting too much of effort, but it looks very cohesive. But at the same time, by putting lots of the colorful patterns, and gives the the feeling of the diverse and rich inspirational patterns from that brand. This is one of students' work, and the student used the foam core cut at home and used the magic marker for the signage part. I think this is one of the sketch model. I don't think this is the final model. Another example of the foam core. Another example of foam core display unit. Another foam core display unit. These are our students' work, so compared to the previous example, it looks a little bit less appealing. And you will see that demonstration of the Photoshop retouching skill from skills, that you're going to remove all these rough edges, so make it all cohesive and clean looking model photo. These are our students' examples. So feel free to try different materials, but especially for this online class, I recommend you use the white foam core, so you can have much more freedom of using or applying different materials. This sort of graphics also you can print out, but I hope that you guys could do that from Photoshop. So you can adjust and or replace different images and make so many variations. So we try to overcome our limitation of not having the in-person class. Again, there are no limitation on your materials. You can do anything. If you can find all those materials nearby you, or you can find, or you happen to have those materials, feel free to use them. But in case anyone feel like too much pressure to use those materials, just go ahead with the foam core models. And I don't collect your final model to give you guys the final grade, so it's totally up to your skill to make your final presentation look nice. For example, you made this bus shaped the dimensioner object, and what I would do, since we're in the online class, I would clean out all these uneven edges so it look flawless. And this is another student's work. You can definitely do printing process, or cutting process, or anything you can do. Feel free to do to make your model in a really great shape. Hi everyone. So I'm going to give you guys overview of 5 to 7 weeks of the class materials, so you guys have a clear concept about what you're gonna do in a few weeks until the end of the project 1. So we're in the final production phase. You made the scale model, which is in a sketch model shape, and scale drawings. You're gonna move on to making actual model by using foam core. I did make my honeycomb shaped box out of the foam core, as you see, and as you will see from the demonstration video in the later. And I only made 3 pieces. I didn't feel like I'm going to make 2-3 more, because I can always do with the Photoshop. Important thing about the final presentation and final of your project 1 is you are not submitting a physical model. You are going to give a presentation by using your digitized presentation materials. For example, this is digitized model photos. Let me move on to the second steps of this final model. Once you're done making this foam core model, and you're going to touch up those uncleaned edges and unnecessary areas, and you're going to make the model look like almost made out of the actual material you wish. So I covered this model with the wooden texture from Photoshop, and which is also demonstrated in the video later. This will be the second assignment for you. If you are done modeling or model making by using actual materials, that's fine. You don't have to do this digitized process. But many of you have limited access to the certain materials or facility to make and cut and assemble all this physical model. For this online class, I would give you guys the option of doing this Photoshop work. So please watch those tutorial videos. Many of them are from YouTube, and my version of tutorials you're going to watch in the later video in this clip. My version is very little bit of time consuming, but doesn't require much special skills, or doesn't require your amazing computer capacity. Even if my demonstration and my way of making this texturizing the object is a little bit of ancient way or time consuming way, it's totally up to you. I just try to give you guys the easiest way of making this texture model. So once you're done with the digital models, which with the extra texture covered, you're going to move on to the photo and video montage. What that means is you're going to do two parts of montage. Number one will be the photo montage. You're simply adding your display fixture to the just environmental setting or your venue setting. If you are doing the retail environment, then you're going to combine those, the store interior or outside shot, combining with your display dimensional graphics. So that will be the number one from this third assignment. And the second assignment from this third assignment will be the video mapping. I have all these reference videos from this contents page under 5-6 and reference videos. Video montage tutorials. I'm also making the tutorial or demonstration video of video montage next week, so this one is coming soon. But in the meantime, please watch those reference videos so you're familiar with what are we gonna do for the next few weeks or in the end of your project. Let me move back to the overview of design development. So just give you the idea of what I meant about the video montage is, so you're familiar with my honeycomb shape shelf, display shelf, and I added those product images and some of the moving images in the background. All the video moving images are related to this product, so customers who could engage to this display corner, it's very easily and better and almost eye-catching too. And another video I made was putting this farm stand onto the countryside setting, which is just for fun. I don't think this is realistic because we want our the retail business is in a little popular area, more many footprints is coming along. Just try to show you the how to put the video as a background or environmental setting. I also added some moving image from the honey farm on top of this panel, just to show you can combine multiple videos into one image from the Photoshop. So I have those two sample videos attached here. You can also see the examples from the previous students, which is actually not this class, but we did pretty similar moving image overlay effect on their 3D model. Student sample works video montage. You see all this students PDF, the MP4 files. They made the environmental the shape people could actually enjoy and experience. This is almost a part of the experiential design. As you noticed, some students added audio and sound effect. Feel free to put audio or sound effect. I didn't do it because I don't feel like you guys need to do that. But anyone wish to do it, feel free to do that. And move back to the assignment part. You guys don't see that yet because I set those dates, starting dates in each different times. So assignment number 4, final physical model, is next week. Even though it's an Indigenous Day holiday, but we're gonna move forward because we already took the last week off. And assignment 5 will be digital model, which is the model of the view with the Photoshop, retouch it and overlay the textures, etc. And photo video montage, which you just watch it, video overlay and moving image overlay effect of your model due is October 23rd. And after this, we're going to have 1 week for prepping our final presentation slide. Then we're going to have each individual final presentation. That about that, I'm going to give you guys another description because this requires each individual's video recording. So in order to make those two honeycomb bookshelf, honeycomb display unit, I made a cut of 18-inch wide by 6-inch rectangular. So I'm going to make two honeycomb shelves out of this shape. So I'm trying to show you how to cut the phone cord properly, especially when you have really small workspace like me. As you see, my cutting mat is only like 18-inch wide, and I'm working on this 8-inch wide the phone cord cutting. So trying to give you a little bit of um, keys to utilize your small space for the workstation and working um, place. So I basically tilt my cutting board to have this wide, 18-inch wide cutting. So I'm trying to cut here, and as you see, my steel ruler is also like really short. So it's great to have really large um, tools and large space, but not everybody have that great luxury of life. So I'm trying to show you the part of the New York life. So I did already give slight cut onto the mat board. I'm sorry, the foam core. So tilted it out, and then make sure that your ruler aligns to the cutting line. Always great to check the measurement. Okay, 3-inch overall. Sometimes you get a little bit of less in the end, but it won't make really nice 3D shaped foam core box. So make sure that everything's measured out correctly. And I'm trying to cut. I don't know if I can do this better. So once you step at this foam core, make sure your blade is almost like a lower angle, not the 90-degree angle. So utilize your sharp blade edge as much as possible. So I will lower the angle of your X-Acto knife. And once you cut, the styrofoam fill sounds a little bit of noise. When it starts making noises, that means your cutting is rough. And make sure that you use really sharp blade and make sure your fingers away from that cutting line. So not to get too close to the cutting. So and you might have to give a lot of pressure onto your metal ruler. So and then with your hands press down firmly. My hands are very small, but some people have a bigger hands, maybe better. I try to, form these two parts as wide as possible, so your hands might get hurt. And I wouldn't cut beyond this pressure point because it will eventually slide, you know, over to your cutting line. So what I'm gonna do, I did cut that amount of my palm, the hand, and then I'm going to move this over and repeat that process. And then the reason why I flip my metal ruler is, it's personal preference. It'll be great if we can do this because this has some grips. Um, but for me, it makes more accurate cutting because the metal straight line is closer to my cutting line. Then when we have this flipped side and have a little bit of a gap between this foam core and the metal ruler, so it sometimes my X-Acto blade flips inside and it just gives uneven edges. But whichever you feel comfortable, you can uh, you get used to it, and it's all about muscle memory. And your when you hold your blade, make sure that whatever your comfortable position of your hands. And sometimes people do like this that way or that way. Make sure you hold your blade really nicely and firmly. And then most of the pressure on your finger will give onto this tip of the part of the exact knife. So make sure that. And what I normally do, instead of repeating that, moving over my ruler and moving my hands towards the in the end of the foam core or cutting part, I, as you see, my motion of my hands moves like a dancing, slightly move over where the blade goes. Now we got the clean cut. So I use the eighth of an inch thick foam core. That's why it's much easier and better. Some people use a thicker foam core depending on the size of your 3D model, but I prefer this thin it actually really formed too. So when you make really small scale model, then the thinner bone core might be ideal. But if you make really large 3D model, as you see, it warps a little bit because of the thickness. Now I got two of 3-inch, 18-inch wide bone core cuts. So I'm going to go ahead to make all the slit cuts of each side of my 3D model. So I'm going to measure out each 3 inches. So as you see, those are total 18 inch. Always make two dots to make parallel lines. You can't cut from just one line because without the 2 point of line, it cannot be really accurate. So measure twice in order to make 90-degree angle. It doesn't have to be like from top to bottom, whatever, but prefer to have a top to bottom. I'm gonna do this 3-inch. You can also do just 3, 6, 9, 12. And make sure your metal ruler aligned to your bone core pattern. 3, 6, 9, 12. So 3-inch each side measured out. And now I can go ahead to just make straight pencil lines for the cutting. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut. It's up to you, whichever makes you feel comfortable. For me, I'm pretty sure that my dots are correctly in the place, so I can go ahead to cut. This time I'm going to just use metal side. So in order to make those slit cut, I'm going to show you how to do this. I use this broom for the desk drawing board a lot because it's always great to clean your workstation. So let me measure if those are correct once again. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this better. I made a 2 dots per each line, so 3 inches wide each. And I'm going to cut. And again, use your sharp blade for X-Acto knife, and make sure, since you're cutting really small area, it slips. So make sure your ruler is pressed down firmly so it doesn't move. I'm going to give really slight cut of top surface of core, which is paper. And if you do this process slowly, you're gonna get really clean cutting edges. And I did a few steps, and as you see, I got really clean cut. without cutting the bottom paper layer. And do this again. Sometimes your dots doesn't look like clear, so I'm going to measure it again from the cutting of the last piece. Okay, now I'm feeling comfortable. I tend to check the measurement repeatedly because it's always good to have an accurate measurement. Again, I'm going to give slight cut of the top surface. So the reason why I'm giving this slight cut is without using tape or glue gun, I'm making my 3D box. So this is a good way of making 3D foam core object without using any glue or any tapes, if it's geometric shape, not the abstract form. But there are always pro and con of doing this method. If you are doing this style, then all of your component of 3D object should be accurate. As you see, I made another cut. Always watch your finger when you cut. As you see, my blade is very lower angle in order to utilize my sharp edges. If you cut like this way, you don't use much of sharp line, so your foam core ended up being very uneven. So now I made this shape. So the edge should be glued or taped somehow. As you see, the both end part joint perfectly. So this is a good way of making box or 3D geometric shape without using any glues or tapes. But they're always good and bad. You have this cutting line. You can do the other way. You can't really fold the other way, only this way. If you make the more complicated shape, or this side is somewhat like towards the inside or outer side, then you have to do two different cuttings on the other side. So here cut outer side, and then here you cut inner side, so you can make the S shape. But for me, this works pretty well. Now I'm making the back panel. So instead of printing out the shape made from Illustrator, I traced it because when you make your shape from Illustrator, sometimes you forget the thickness of this foam core. It's 1/8 of an inch thick. You can do that from Illustrator and print out the accurate shape and use that cutout as the template, and you can do the cutting. But in order to save the time, I did this way. And then now I'm going to cut the honeycomb shape. So when you cut little complicated geometric shape, so I'm going to show you how to cut those complicated shape out of foam core. I'm going to cut out excessive amount of the foam core piece. As you see, the cutting panel moves, so you have to actually stand up when you cut the foam core. Now I'm sitting a little bit. So I need to cut this one side of this honeycomb shape, but when you cut out the complicated shape from foam core, it almost feel like you carve out the shape from foam core piece. One side. Now you see the little smaller piece left. So tend to move. And as you see, I did so many cuts instead of doing just one clean cut. And I'm trying to make sure that I got all the center line. And all the sides are equal. As you see, the one side of this honeycomb is actually bigger than 3 inch. So you can't really think that very easily, because always have to calculate the foam core thickness and stuff. So I prefer to trace my foam core shape and do a cut. Sometimes your measurement ended up being like 3.263. It's really hard to calculate and make a cutting. But do that method, you have to double check with your phone cores multiple times. So overall your 3D shapes are balanced. Now I'm a little worried if my honeycomb shapes are not balanced enough. But let's see how it goes. It's always hard to know without doing it. Fail and you learn. Make sure when you're done with cutting, move your X-Acto knife somewhere else, because it's always great to be safe when you're working your model, and try to be clean up, because we are working from really small working space. Okay, seems looking pretty good. So you can go ahead to use your hot glue to attach this back, or some people use just pin from the back side to the phone core fill. But my phone core is very thin. I'm going to use magic scotch tape. And then always dirty side should be invisible area. Or you can remove these marks. Show you the left side way, but if you're gonna use tape for the joint, make sure your tape applies onto your model really nice and clean. Otherwise it will look very messy. I'm going to give a little bit of a cut over there, because I am unsure how it will turn out. Make sure your phone core cuts are aligned. It's great to have really small and sharp scissor. This is my knitting scissor, but it works pretty well for my purpose. Sorry about my ugly thumb because I got cut from when I was cooking, not from X-Acto knife using. I'm trying to make sure that. Always straight and aligned. And great to keep the same width as the other side. This is not the final model, by the way. This is not a sketch mock-up either. It's probably for the final model kind of shape. But I'm not sure about you guys, the online class, but since you cannot really use the wood shop in the campus, I should probably have you guys work on really nice, clean foam core model. Because I can't really collect your physical finalized work to give a final grading. So as long as you make really nice, clean foam core model for your final presentation and take a pictures, that'll be great. And the Photoshop function will be added. So now I made my honeycomb shaped shelf. So I gotta make 2 more of this to make a stack. Now I made 2 more honeycomb box, and the third one I left empty because I thought I could do something by not putting the one side. This is the beauty of doing and making a sketch model. You can always revise and adjust your model shape, and then you get more ideas while you making the configurations. And I did put the double stick tape here so I can move around. So now it's time to make the great photograph of my model. Hi everyone. So today we're going to start making model making. We looked how we make the physical model by my demonstration right before this, and now I'm going to show you how to Photoshop your model photos. So even if you made your model in perfect shape, you believe that your cutting and your measurements are all correct and everything looked flawless from your eyes. But you realize after taking photos and looking at those images, this will show every details and really sharp, rugged edges and rough edges. So you might want to remove and touch from Photoshop in order to make in the end of shot of my montage view here. So in order to make this final view, I'm going to show you how to do the process. First off, you're going to pick the best photo from your pictures, and now I'm going to show you how to do the touch-ups. It requires a lot of time and process, but if once you are comfortable and used to it, it would get easier and easier. So I'm going to touch up the foam core cutting edges. You don't have to do too much details because I'm going to do this wrapping effect. I mean, this does not require like 3D graphic or amazing Photoshop skills. I use just this as just very manual way by using the wooden texture image from online. I'm going to show you just few examples, and the rest of part you can do it your own with your model. So I'm going to remove that unnecessary part and select with the lasso tool, and I'm going to select this clone stem tool from the toolbox. And while you're clicking option, you can copy the outer side of the background. It's almost like a spoiled style of effect. So you observe the texture right around the unnecessary part, and you start without clicking option. Once you click the option and you observe this texture, and you're going to remove or cover up the part completely. As you see, the cursor keeps following this working area. So now you remove that part. You can go more and more if it needed. And this rough edge, I'm going to select this side only so it doesn't affect to the other side. Then click the clone tool, and I'm going to let me move this toolbox. I'm going to spoil and observe comparatively nicer area, and then start covering. Make sure that your details somehow aligned with your existing photo. And this side, I'm going to copy from the next. So once you made really clean shape on the one side of your panel or one side of your phone cord part from your 3D fixture, you can reuse it to make it work. It may not be the perfect from the first try, but I'm pretty sure you'll get used to it. And your brush size is too big, then you can always adjust the hardness and sizes. So you can go much more detailed part. You don't have to do this job. I'm just trying to show you the variety of the brush stroke. So let's say you covered all the rough edges and noises. Let's move on to adjusting the brightness and contrast of entire image. Since today was a rainy day and very dark outside, the photo came out pretty dark. So I'm going to go to the adjustment and go to exposure. And I'm going to make it a little brighter. And you can also go to image adjustment, brightness, contrast. And I'll give a little more contrast because showing the structure 3D shape is very important. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click the object selection tool and select my model only in order to remove the white background. As you see, the auto selection function, the tool isn't perfect. So you can always modify of the selection. And once you select, once you believe your object has been selected, and you can go to select and inverse and select the background only. So I'm going to click the backspace bar, delete button, and it will ask you what color will be. So I'm just gonna do white for now. And as you see, the edges are not too perfect by the auto selection tool. I'm going to go detail by my lasso tool manually. Some people use the auto magnet lasso tool, but that also doesn't give you the clean shape of the cut. So I prefer to use this lasso manual tool, so you can have more control over of selection. You can also use the eraser tool to remove this thing. Sometimes auto selection of the object doesn't register really bright areas or small details, so you have to go little by little. As you know, it always takes time. Now my object has a white background, and I'm going to see if I can fix this entire position by using the transform tool. So when you click the Command T button, and you get this free transform function, and you can keep clicking Command key from your keyboard. You can modify you can select the each corner, larger, smaller, tilt, distort. So I'm trying to make the horizontal line of these two shelves, because my iPhone sometimes does this distortion depending on the perspective while I'm taking photos. Okay, now I believe it looks pretty good, except for all this untouched part. I'm just trying to save the time, and I'm going to move on to the texture part. Previously, Photoshop supported the 3D function, which you can use all this function of the lighting effect or mesh point and all that, but doesn't seem like working anymore. It just gives the computer crash all the time, and Photoshop advised us to use the Adobe Substance program instead. So I'm going to do with this texture overlapping by manually. So I'm going to open one of my wooden texture, which I downloaded from online. You can also bring your images from to the layer too. Linked and wooden background. So now we got texture image on our working file and in a different layer. I'm going to move this texture images on the left side and work off this one image to the different wrapping point. You're going to keep clicking option one when you want to copy the images, the texture images in a different layer. You can click the option and you can copy this multiple times. And these are all in a different layers. So I made them in the group 1, and I'm going to do wooden texture. Once you click the right mouse, and you can select each, or you can just literally double click targeted image and you can select the images and move individual layers. Let's say we're making this model doing some like a wrapping manually. Current 3D function from Illustrator or Photoshop, which doesn't support anymore, it gives too much of trouble. So even if it takes a little bit of time, and I prefer to go this way, some people might say, can I just use one image to cover entire object? Yes, you can, but it won't look realistic. So let's do a little bit of detail job as much as possible, because the shape of this 3D shelf, there should be the direction of the texture. You see this wooden grain texture has the directions. So I'm going to do a little bit of Shift key, Command T as a free transform tool, so you can warp or distort this rectangular texture. So I'm going to cover this bottom. So it's a little wrapping gift box kind of style, but piece by pieces. You can do with other textures, the stone, granite, or marble, anything you wish. You can do this, because it doesn't give you the limitation, because you have to do this manually. I wish there's tool that we can use or extension. I heard there are many other, but it just takes so long time to process this 3D effect, wrapping effect on the certain image. So if your model is simple enough, I would recommend you doing this. So as you see, I made one side covered, and I'm trying to cover the back panel. So I'm going to go to layers, make it blend option as a multiply, so I can see the shape of the panel in the back. And make it a little less so I can see all these cutting lines. It's not too difficult to trace that, because my shape is geometric shape. So sometimes it asks something different. So let me do it again. Make sure my angles are correct. Okay, this is smart object. So let me click the mouse, right mouse click, and I'll rasterize the layer. So now we can cut. If anyone have different idea about doing this, and feel free to let me know. You can also make 3D shape from Illustrator and use the 3D texture function. But my shape is a little more complicated, so I prefer to do this style. And now once I made one side and one corner of this texture, I can also reuse this by clicking the option, click and copy, and then this function. Sometimes it's like a little mindless job. Some people really enjoy doing this style. And I'm going to do this rasterize layer. Try to cover entire back panel to see that cutting line. I'm going to make that opacity a little lighter. It's always great to make nice angle so you don't have to do many touches. And I'm going to go to inverse. If things are not too perfect in the first bite, you can always come back and touch up later. You can also adjust the brightness by using the opacity bar. So as you see, my light source came from the left side. The left shelf is brightest among the three shelves, so I made this middle shelf slightly darker than the left shelf. This requires a little bit of skill and sense. You don't have to rasterize a layer all the time. Once you made this layer rasterized, you can always copy from there too. Then you're gonna get the copied version of rasterized image layer. I'm going to move over this and make this right top. So that's how you make things texturalized. I mean, I taught different way last year by using the 3D tool here. But it was very complicated and nobody understood. And it's no longer supporting in the Photoshop. So this is a little bit time consuming, I understand, and I hope your fixture is less complicated than mine. Now, let me move on to the actual photo montage side. So let's say we covered all this 3D model with the wooden texture. And after all that, and I remove the background white to make it transparent so that I can apply onto the different environmental image and pictures to make a photo montage. So I save them as a Photoshop file, PSD or PNG file, and move on to this view. the this honey farm, this farm stand picture from somewhere because my honey farm doesn't have this farm stand booth, so I picked from somewhere. And you notice my picture was there. And all the product came from this image, so everything looks so natural. What I did here is I placed my Photoshop of the 3D display rack here. By selecting this cream jar by using the object selection tool, and copy, keep clicking option key and put on top of here. Doesn't show because the layer is behind my shelf. And make sure your clipped image has different in the different layer, because I didn't make that different layer, that's why it just keeps hidden as a background. I understand this class is an Photoshop class, so I'm showing you that really simple few tools so that we can finish our project. So let me go to the file first and place linked. And Honey 2 was my shelf, and with size, and make sure that you're clicking option and shift key same time so everything's in a proportion. And adjust your model to fit into this booth. I didn't do much of work on this existing banners and signs, so it looked very natural. And now I'm going to adjust the brightness of this fixture to fit into this booth color. My fixture has very yellowy color, and I'm going to go to image and adjustment and photo filter. I'm going to give cooling filter. You can also adjust the density and try to match the color. You can also use the auto tone, so Photoshop automatically picks up the rest of the background images and match and adjust your color to this tone. So now it looks much more engaged to this existing photo. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to select background, and from the background I found this product image, and option click to copy, but you can also click Command X and make another new layer in order to keep that as a separate layer. Actually, I'm missing this. Okay, here is the jars. And make sure your shelves goes under that new layer. So the new layer goes on top of your object. And I'm going to click Option again and then copy one more group. And by using the direction key cursor, you can adjust the location. And after finish the first tier of my display shelf, and I feel like I need to do more, and what I did was I simply copied the first and then move over to the top tier, made another additional top shelves to make honeycomb shaped display shelf. If you've done this far, then you're almost completed your project. So when you're doing this little detailed Photoshop touch-ups, don't feel that you're wasting your time, because compared to the offline in-person class, you guys don't do much completed and the better, great looking version of your dimensional graphics, because we can't use the facility, wood cuttings and laser cut and all that. And I made a different curriculum for the online, which is this Photoshop montage. So when you're doing all this Photoshop work, doing the making your display fixture realistic, it will take a while, and you're given 2-3 weeks until the final presentation. And as you see, this is my auditioner. It was originally something different name of the farm. You can also go more detail, changing all this different company's name. Now you can find another image that have a different angles of this farm stand booth. Then you can also make a different view of your photo montage display shelves photo montage.